my first film I ever worked on was Moonlight, which is the one that won an Oscar. Is can you edit a video? A lot of
Right.
streamers have a lot of content and they don't have a lot of time to make
Yeah.
a quick video to put on YouTube.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Sporting Global podcast. And today we're here with Azuki. Azuki, how are you? How's life in where are you based in the US again?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. Gotta represent.
Yeah.
Gotta represent. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? How's everything been for you guys on your side of the world, you know?
Yeah, no, it's good over here, you know. It's we're just preparing, you know, for a very exciting, you know, Sporting Global Invitational Esports as well, happening in a few months' time. So, you know, we're also excited to have you part of that. But for now, you know, we're gonna have a great talk with you about your experience, your I guess passion for gaming and filmmaking and all this cool stuff. But I mean, like, I just gotta ask, you gotta tell me first and foremost, like, where does the name of Azuki come from? Like, give us the background here.
Are you ready?
Let me tell you, Azuki, I'm in my 30s now. So Azuki is a very, very old username. And the way that it came about was, I'm a huge anime fan. I grew up watching Japanese cartoons.
Yeah.
And I was 13 years old and I was writing my own little comic books, mangas.
Yeah.
And I made up a character named Azuki.
Nice.
And so I've like lived my life through her. She was like this really cool, like magical, like half like beast, like awesome, cool creature kind of girl. Anyway,
right.
So that name ended up sticking with me throughout high school.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what else to name myself. And I tried to think of other things like, let me try this name. I'm like, no, that doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So I ended up with Azuki from 13 years old until my 30s right now, and it's still going, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, it makes sense though, right? I mean, like, why change something that works, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people kind of make fun of me sometimes over it.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool name. You know, we support it. Sporting Global supports Azuki.
I mean, it kind of rolls off your tongue too, Azuki.
Right.
Right.
No,
Which,
no, but I mean, like, people don't think about that enough though. Like, I mean, like, without like going like too much out of, you know, scope with the topic here. But I mean, like, I remember like when I was like trying to figure out the name of the company, like Sporting Global, and I used so long time on like, what are we gonna call it, and like, what is the branding, all this around it? Because I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, this is what people are gonna remember you about, right? And I mean, like, it was something already that you had a great like connection with, like something that, you know, you can relate to, and I guess, like, as you said, it's like it's easy, you know. And I guess, like, I almost have to like add this as since we talked with like BBXH as well, and I asked her about the name, and she's like, you know, it's also good because it started with like the letter B, and you're like, you're right, because she ends up like before on the, I don't know, like on the streaming and all this stuff when people like try to search for you, which is always a pleasure. So I told her like, oh shit, I should have chosen something else than Sporting Global.
yeah. I mean, that is a good point, because like my name starts with A, obviously, so yeah. I tend to be on the top of the list as well.
Right.
So yeah.
That's a huge perk as well, you know.
Yeah.
But we're essentially, I guess, like, did your passion for gaming start? I guess, like, you talk a little bit about your anime, the magma, and all this stuff, and anime. Oh my god, I can't even speak today. But just tell us a little bit about, like, sort of like the love and passion for gaming. How did that come to life?
Okay, so first of all, I grew up with all male cousins as a kid.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine, like, me as a 6-year-old, just 7-year-old playing all these like different games, like on the Atari, and then I remember playing a lot of Mortal Kombat growing up as well.
Damn.
But the one that fueled it the most was my dad. My dad is a gamer, believe it or not. Yeah. So he had all the systems growing up. We had a TurboGrafx DX. That's the old school, you know, like,
honestly, I never heard about it. Not gonna lie.
No. Oh my god. Okay, so he had that, and they're like little they're not even cartridges. They're like little. They look like almost credit cards, and you'd slip them in, and then you play your game, right?
Right.
And
Right.
they had games like Bonk's Big Adventure, Blazing Lasers, and a bunch of other really important games to
Yeah. Yeah.
what we know now. So
Yeah.
I
That's
grew up with
awesome.
him gaming with me as a kid,
Yeah.
and it just kind of snowballed from there, you know?
Right. Right. But that's pretty awesome though. I mean, like, it's I mean, like, it always tends to start with like the parents, right?
Yeah. If you're
Somehow.
lucky though.
Yeah, I mean, like, plus, I mean, like, it's always something, right? And then I guess, like, as you said, with your cousins and everything too, like, just having that, access, and I guess, like, everyone's sort of like just playing, and I mean, like, even to today, right? I think it's just like with the pandemic and everything going on as well, like, it's sort of like that gaming and the playing games, just having that community, and then being able to do that, it's a lot of value to it and a lot of fun, stories, I guess, you have from going back a little bit, into where it all started.
Yeah.
But through that as well, I guess you've been developing, yourself as a streamer and content creator, and also like film creator, I guess I would almost say. and
Yeah.
and if you look at like a little bit into like, okay, you started with, playing with your dad and like with your cousins and all this, and when did it kind of like, go a little bit more serious, I guess, and the aspect of becoming
Hmm.
a streamer and content creator and filmmaker? Where did that start?
Okay. So filmmaking is something I've been wanting to do since I was very young, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I didn't I didn't realize it until I was about 15 years old. Um,
Yeah.
but when I was really little, like 7, same thing, about the same age, my dad had a camcorder, and I would be like, "Okay, Dad, all right, you're gonna grab this camera, and I need you to film right over there,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna do this to the camera when I'm over here doing this, okay?" And then,
Right.
oh my gosh, he would do it, and I come back and I'm like, "Okay, Dad, let me see it again." And I'm like, "No, you did it wrong." So like I had a little bit of a director in me.
Yeah.
They're in VHS tapes, I promise you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No, for sure.
so then like I didn't know it at that time, but when I got to high school and then I started making my own videos, I was about 14 when I did my first YouTube videos.
Nice.
And it kept going from there. And then that's when I realized that I really wanted to be in the film industry.
Mm.
So I continued to create, and then eventually went to college and got a degree in it, and got really lucky meeting some really amazing people while I was filming my
Right.
own movies.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of like what got me where I am today, basically.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And then later, I guess, on the streaming and being like a, full-time Twitch streamer and all this stuff, like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, you talk a lot about your I guess, like, your inner director came out early.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. But kind of like on the streaming side of things, like when did you kind of like realize, okay, like, I want to do like, streamer, being a streamer, being like a content creator, like kind of like just going live, I guess, which is a whole different aspect, of sitting, instead of being directing and behind the scenes, like now you're, front camera, face on live, it's gotta happen on the spot. You just take us a little bit through like that process.
Okay, so obviously I've been a gamer since I was very young.
Yeah.
About in my early teens, I started playing World of Warcraft, and it kind of just kept going for like a long time, for years and years. And then I started going to BlizzCon years ago, long time ago, like 2010 was probably my first BlizzCon.
Right.
And one year that I went, I forget which year exactly, I think it was like 2012.
Yeah.
I went, and I was a very competitive girl too, because I played like competitively in Counter-Strike. And I did Cal. So
Right.
the CAL basically was like a league.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I went to BlizzCon, and I was watching some of the tournaments like Heroes of the Storm, because I was really into that at the time. And I realized, oh my God, there's no females that are representing heroes, like any games really competitively. And I went home. I started my own esports team.
Nice.
And I ran that team, and then I started a Twitch for the team.
Yeah.
And it was then that I started streaming. I started streaming our practices. I started streaming kind of like what the other point of views. And then eventually, after a few years of managing this team, I decided I'm just going to focus on myself now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And compete and push myself out there. So I
Sure.
kind of like, it was kind of like a transitional phase, really.
Yeah.
And that's really where it started, like after coming back and starting the esports team.
Well, I mean, like that's kind of like a cool story though, because I mean, like now you kind of like just I guess like if you're gonna use like a gaming term, like leveled up in a sense from like each. I don't know, like go to the next level. I wouldn't even say like level up because I mean like there's different categories here of things and different roles, and as
Yeah.
you say, like having that director role, then like managing a team and now kind of like streaming yourself and I guess like if you're looking a little bit into that, I guess the film industry in itself, and sort of like working on projects, such as Umbrella Academy season 2 and Moonlight. I guess like what key lessons did you bring with you, from the director head, I guess in a sense, when you went into the streaming world? And now I'm thinking like not for the team, but for yourself.
Okay. So working on films, my first film I ever worked on was Moonlight, which is the one that won an Oscar. I didn't do anything more than like all the office work and set work.
Sure.
But that was teaching me how to film, how
Yeah.
the process of how it went. So
Yeah.
I learned a lot from that. And because of that, I was able to create a short documentary called Fight Like a Girl.
Hmm.
And I learned so much from that I was able to put into my own work. And I mean, like when you go on set, it is a complete different world than when you go to school for it. It
Right.
is not really the same. Yes, it
Yeah.
is, but it's the experience of it is completely different.
Yeah. I
So
can
yeah,
imagine.
there's a lot that I took from working on shows, on commercials, movies that I applied to my daily life and how I edit my videos, how I shoot them, how
Yeah.
I put my team together and the budget and all of that,
Yeah.
comes from working closely, on set.
Right. And if we're talking a little bit about, the your own film, like Fight Like a Girl, obviously, you won multiple awards for it too, which is, super awesome. But tell us a little bit about, the short film and I guess like the purpose behind it and kind of like what you saw and like what was the reason behind the film.
Okay, so the biggest thing that we wanted to do was represent women in competitive gaming because sure, there's a lot of girls that play video games, especially nowadays. It's
Yeah.
the bar is starting to raise,
Yeah.
but we wanted to make sure that we had focused on the women who are actually in competitions, tournaments, were traveling nationally, internationally to compete in either Smash Brothers or any game that is out there.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of females who are like in the competitive, like in the light of the competitive scene.
Right.
So that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to encourage more women to break out and actually put themselves out there because the reality is it doesn't matter if you're a male or female, you can be really good at a game. The only thing is that because I feel like a lot of women are more shy into getting into competitive scenes because
Hmm.
of, the internet is not a very nice place sometimes.
Right.
A lot of girls tend to take a backseat role and they manage instead, or they do anything else other than compete.
Yeah.
So, like, if you have a competition, there's like 100 people, and then you have, two girls out of the 100 people competing. It it becomes a number game,
Yeah.
like that's why they're not on the spotlight so much because we need more
Yeah.
quality and like more women to compete.
For
So that's
sure.
really what it is. It's just focusing on more women that are competing rather than just playing the game and trying to inspire more to get themselves out there and kind of even the playing field a little bit.
Right. And I guess like as you were just saying there, right, is showcasing, for
Mhm.
more, female gamers and women out there that okay, you can be in the front seats, it's possible, it's a lot, it's other people doing it too, and I think that kind of like also creates that spark and interest, right, of like seeing like that it's possible. I mean, like we have kind of like I guess in the same issue, in the sport industry in general of like working in professional sports as leaders, administrators, or what it might be. Like there's more women there, of course, now, but it's still kind of like imbalance. So it's kind of like how do we help showcasing that there's equal opportunities and there are room for everyone essentially, based on your skills and performance, and which is obviously very relatable in gaming
Yeah.
and kind of like competitive gaming per se. And I guess I also wanted to like talk a little bit about you're being like a Twitch streamer, and I guess
Mm.
as well, first of all, congrats on being a partner with the content
Yeah.
creator, which is the creator of Sea of Thieves, right? So
Yeah.
are you kind of like I guess like a full-time Sea of Thieves streamer, or is it like do you kind of like swap games a little bit around that?
So, I would say that I probably play Sea of Thieves 80% of the time on stream,
Yeah,
but I have been kind of venturing into other games as of recently, and but I am mostly focused on Sea of Thieves. But
right.
you'll see me kind of hop around. It really depends on the
Yeah.
day and what I'm doing. So, yeah.
What's the mood like, right?
Yeah, yeah, because sometimes I feel like just being in like a shooter or something, or I just want to do something more chill. It just depends
Yeah,
on
no,
the
for
day,
sure.
you know?
But take us obviously since this podcast, a lot of the people that are listening to this are kind of like business people. They want to work in the business side of the industry, esports, streaming, content creation, all this good
Yeah.
stuff. And take us a little bit through, like, I guess, the process of working with Rare, and the game Sea of Thieves, and kind of like ways that you collaborate.
Sure. So the good thing about being partnered with Sea of Thieves is that it gives you the ability to give back to your community, right?
Right.
So you have something to offer. They basically give you an allowance. They'll give you a lot to give away a month. So anybody that's watching has a chance at winning really cool skins that you can't really get in game unless you win it. And
Yeah.
also something called Twitch drops, which is really, really important to the community.
Yeah.
Anytime this Twitch drops, that's when the viewership hits like high, like skyrockets,
Yeah.
because it's giving back to the community
Yeah.
and making a lot of people happy. And it also, in turn, if you're a CFD's partner, it helps you also have more exposure in Twitch in general.
Sure.
Mm.
And I guess, like, if we're starting to look a little bit into, I guess, like, tips and advice that you have for I guess, like, students and young professionals maybe looking to start a career in streaming, either as a streamer itself,
Yeah.
but maybe also as a producer, kind of like behind the scenes, I guess.
Okay.
What kind of tips do you have for them? And second, kind of like follow-up question, I know it's a lot
Yeah. No, you're
right
good.
now,
You're
but
good.
where do you see the biggest need right now in the streaming and content creation world?
Okay. So I'm gonna start with the first part with the tips.
Okay.
When it comes to Twitch streaming, the biggest tip that I give everybody is that go into someone's channel that you see has a purple check mark. See what their about me looks like. See what their overlays look like. Kind of check to see how they interact with their chat, what they're doing, and then kind of use that as an example of what you should do. You
Mhm.
take that and you make it your own. That's how I started. I saw somebody that had really cute things on their about me. I'm like, I kind of like that. I'm gonna do that,
Right.
but in my own way.
Yeah.
So the number one thing is you work on your profile, your about me, get it nice and fleshed out, and then you start working on your overlays for the stream. And the number one thing is that your audio needs to be good, because we can deal with no webcam, but an audio that sounds, it's
Right.
harder to
Yeah.
handle. So webcams could always be upgraded. That's okay, but make sure you have a good standalone mic, not a headset mic.
Mhm.
And then from there, once you feel like you have everything kind of like your check marks, okay, you got my about me, you've got your video ready, your audio ready, your overlays ready, and your transition scenes, when you're starting, when you're ending, your just chatting scenes, whatever, anything you need. When that is checked off, then you hit live, go live, because you have fixed your profile the way you should and you branded yourself. Now, one thing I've learned is that you're not going to really know who you are until like maybe a couple months from now. Then you start kind of adding to your stream, like, oh, I like this, oh, I'm about this. You'll
Right.
figure your way,
Sure.
so don't stress that.
Yeah.
Another tip is networking. So it's really important for you to network. If you're starting off as a streamer, always network with somebody that is around your range of viewership. So if you have about 5 to 10 viewership, find people who are about 5 to 15 viewership. Go and make friends, support them, follow them, go in their chat and say hello. The more you support other streamers that are in the same range as you, the more they're going to support you back. Make friends, because friends is important. And what that's going to enable you to happen is you guys are going to end up collaborating. You guys are going to merge communities, and you're going to make a really good friend out of it. And then you just continue moving on like that. You continue networking in that way. So that's like the number one tips that I have for everybody. And don't look at your view count while you're live. Like, you don't want to see how many people are looking at you at the same time, because you're gonna feel bad if you only see like one person. Like, don't, because that's gonna bring their mood down. So just pretend like 100 people are watching you every day, and you're gonna be fine. Trust me.
That's some really great advice. And I'm thinking a little bit on, you were talking a little bit about sort of like the examples and kind of like getting the inspiration from people. Like say that you sort of like, okay, I want to stream like about this game. Would you kind of like try to get inspiration specifically, from streamers in that game, or would you kind of like just explore a little bit about like, kind of like the community, I guess, in itself of some names and people that you're like, are not necessarily, streaming that game that you're thinking, but are in the platform and are doing different kind of things. Like, what is your viewpoint on that?
I mean, you can always look around and kind of just see like different categories and different streamers and categories. But I always suggest that you stick to one category just for a couple, at least 6 months or so, just so you can build a community within that. And basically, from there, you can figure out if you're going to do variety or if you're going to switch games. For me, I started off with Heroes of the Storm, moved on to Dead by Daylight, and then now I'm in Sea of Thieves.
Right. So it is possible to transition. And if we're looking a little bit on from like I guess like producer side of things, like if you want to kind of like start, I guess, being a little bit behind the scenes, what kind of tips do you have for them in that?
Okay, so it really depends, because in the film world, a lot of people that I have met, the first thing they always say when they think about doing filmmaking is like, oh, I want to be a director. Right. But have you thought about all the other amazing positions in the film world? It's not just about being a director. You can be a cameraman. You can work in costume and wardrobe. You can do art department. There's just so many endless possibilities to work behind the scenes that you can do, not just be a director. Right. Now, I'm not saying you can't be one, but it's a really hard role to take on. I always suggest start with a department, work your way through that department, and when you're feeling satisfied or you feel like you've gotten what you wanted, you move on, or you try to make your own, your own films. You try to get it sponsored, however way you can. Get a group of friends together, because that's one thing when you work on set, you're going to meet a lot of other hungry filmmakers who are ready to just work on something, and they're like, I just want to make my own thing. Right. You can collaborate with them and create your own films and put them in film festivals to start. You can think big, but sometimes you just got to start small and then build up,
No, 100%. And I guess like looking at, I guess the streaming content creation world, and what are some of the biggest needs that you see right now from, I guess, like from a perspective of people wanting to work in that space? Like what are some of the challenges that you're seeing that could kind of like be a way where people could, okay, here's a way that people can assist and help, when they're kind of like looking now, like there's a lot of students, looking to, get some experience, get their foot in the door, like trying to like help out, but they don't necessarily know like, well, how do I help some streamers? How can I help, what is their biggest challenges right now? How can I, get involved, without necessarily having to start streaming or having to do like an education in film in order to start doing like just how you see it right now.
Okay. So if somebody wants to get involved with this streamer per se, and they want to help, the biggest number one thing is, can you edit a video? A lot of streamers have a lot of content and they don't have a lot of time to make a quick video to put on YouTube. So that's like the number one thing. And it's easy to edit. I promise you can look up a YouTube tutorial. You can edit like this. You don't need classes for editing. So that's the number one way to get involved. You can reach out to streamers like, hey, I'm learning how to edit. Can I edit for you for free? And they'll be like, sure, here you go. This is a VOD. Go ahead and clip out the best parts of the VOD. And then bam, you're making a montage for a streamer, and they're going to be super appreciative. And then that leads into a more personal relationship with them, with business, that is,
Sure.
Another way to get involved, of course, is if support. If you're there every day, you're giving support to the streamer. It doesn't have to be monetary. Support comes in many different forms.
Yeah.
It could be just chatting with the streamer every day, or just, I don't know, creating like little funny snippets of clips or whatever it may be. If you're just there, a streamer will notice that person's been spending time in their chat, and then another business relationship can form from that, or just a friendship in general, you know?
Yeah. No, but I think that's some really good advice there of just essentially being proactive, right? And saying
Mhm.
like, show that you're there, and being presence. And if you are, and I think you're touching upon really, something great as well, is that, in the digital age, and sort of like with the pandemic, we see a lot more people like doing digital initiatives, so like streamers and activities like that. So there will sort of like be an increase of people needing help with editing videos, creating
Mhm.
content, like all this stuff, because there's
Yeah.
there's so much content out there too. So you kind of like have to, we talked about it before the stream, consistency, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because like, see, for me, I being naturally like in film, I'm an editor as well. So I
Right.
edit all my stuff.
Yeah.
And I have not been able to sit down and edit this past week because
Yeah.
I've been so busy. And so
I
that's when somebody that edits or is trying to learn how to edit can come in and assist me and help me. And that could lead, like I said, into an actually like getting paid for your work,
Right.
or whatever is needed. If they need hours for some sort of volunteer work, or just want experience and
Hmm.
get to know the person more and learn from them. There's
And
just so many possibilities.
Yeah. And I'm just like kind of like curious here as well though. Like what is your perspective on, I mean, like it literally just popped in my head right now. So I was like, okay, I gotta ask this. But what is sort of your perspective on like streamers having like kind of like internship opportunities for people, for students to
Well, it
help
depends.
this kind of things.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It depends on what the streamer has to offer. Let's say the
Sure.
streamer has an esports organization they work for.
Yeah.
That would be a great way to offer an internship to somebody. Um, Also depends on the size of the streamer, because everybody, you may be a partner streamer, but
Yeah.
some people are on the lower end of viewership than others, and then there's others that have like 20,000 viewers. Those type of streamers, let's say you were to work with them, they,
Yeah.
I think, would bring you more opportunities at the end of the
For sure.
day.
For
But it
sure.
also, like I said, depends if they're working on with a specific organization or anything esports related.
So sort of like essentially exploring those kind of um, you know, content creators and streamers that are associated with any kind of organization, or
Yeah.
kind of like have a little bit higher, viewer count, I guess, to kind of like provide that range of opportunities. And I
Yes.
guess like in that sense though, I guess like what would be your advice for people maybe reaching out them? Because I mean, like if you're looking at some really big streamers, then there's a lot of people that oh, like I want to help out, I want to do this, I want to do that, and kind of like how do you kind of like separate yourself and get that attention in a sense?
Okay, so that's a little harder, obviously, because it takes time to build someone's trust, especially if they're really, really big.
Yeah.
It's hard to get noticed in the sea of things, honestly. um, so for me, if I were somebody that was trying to get to know a bigger streamer or try to network with them, I would obviously try to introduce myself through an email if they have a business email, kind of like express what I have to offer. Sometimes you're not going to really get anything back,
Right.
but you put yourself out there. Also, let's say it's an organization, you could always reach out to them as well that you're interested. It's like one of those things where you just like submit your application to like 30 places, and maybe one or two places are going to come back with an answer. So it's one of those situations. Yeah.
And then I guess like just to add on to that too is and I wanted to talk about, because people don't always see what's happening behind the scenes, right? They kind of like just
Mhm.
see that, oh, like Sporting Global and Azuki are on a podcast right now, and nobody knows essentially like, okay, well, how did that essentially start, right? So
Yeah.
we reached out to BBXH, another streamer and a good friend of you, and so we had obviously some good conversations, and we had her on the podcast, and it's also going to be like one of the moderators on the invitational summit that we're happening in September, and then she opened the door to you, So, also through like getting that, first connection, that first step into that world, and you provide value, you're being obviously, a good person and being doing a lot of good stuff, then that opens doors. It's sort of like a trickle effect. And I think that's important for people to know, that it's important to take that first step, but there's so much opportunity that leads to, getting that opportunity. And once you get it, you have to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. And that's where networking comes into play. And that's the same thing with the film world. Like, let's say you get, because this is how I kind of broke into it. I got my first opportunity given to me. From there, I made sure that I got to know everybody on set, and I got to talk to everybody, because that was my chance. Because if I stayed quiet, if I didn't introduce myself to everybody, if I didn't try, if I didn't do my best to make everybody's life easier on set, I wouldn't have gone as far as I have now in my life, So when you network, when you meet that person, they open that door, you better go knocking on every other door that you see inside that building, because you never know who else is going to open more doors for you,
100%. Well, with that, Azuki, I think it's a perfect time to wrap this up. It's a good advice. It was a lot of fun and insights sharing with you, and we're super excited, like I said, to have you part of our Sporting Global Invitational Esport Summit happening 30th of September. So everyone, make sure to sign up for that and stay tuned for more information coming soon. In the meantime, make sure to check out Azuki's stream as well. We'll make sure that link is in the YouTube video and all this stuff, so you can check her out, and maybe she'll open some doors as well. Who knows? Gotta grab the opportunity. and yeah, no, we really appreciate you taking the time and being part of this, Azuki.
Thank you again. Honestly, I'm really honored to be a part of this podcast and the invitational. I look forward to it, and you never know, I might just like bring out all my cameras, be like, all right guys, let's go.
Let's do it. I mean, like,
make a documentary out of it.
I think you maybe have to.
Yeah, I think so. Like a behind the scenes documentary,
Ooh, maybe you have to like do like a Sporting Global Invitational after movie.
Yeah, I'm always open to anything. But seriously, thank you again for having me on.
Well, it was a pleasure having you here, Azuki. And for those of you that tune in, make sure to like the video. If you want to see more streamers like Azuki, write it in the comment section below. Maybe write like, who do you want us to interview next? Do that, so we know. And Azuki, we have like this fun tradition on our podcast. Okay. I mean, like, it's not super crazy though. It's not super crazy. So with every video we do, we always finish with some Norwegian. So you gotta learn some Norwegian now. I don't know if you're ready for it though.
Okay, all right. Let me see. Lay it on me.
All right. So with every video we do, we always finish with "Vi snakkes," which means "see you later" in Norwegian. So that's what you gotta say.
Okay, vi snakkes.
There you go. Nice work. You did it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Azuki. We'll
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.